Now many men will try to tell you bad things about me. Oh baby, let them try. I know one day they'll lust you guys, and there will be no cause or reason for you to doubt me. Cause what I feel is real. The love that I have is yours.
Thank you all very much. Thank you. Give it up for young Kavita, please. Thank you for your introduction. Members of the UNC family, I want to say good evening to you here in Tunapuna. I want to say good evening to Trinidad and Tobago. But you know, it's very hard to say that. When it is today, our murder toll is 100 persons. When it is a 71-year-old man can be gunned down in front of a mall on a Sunday afternoon, a mall filled with families, then it is a very difficult thing to say good evening. But you know, nevertheless, we can still celebrate as a people. And I ask you to join with me as we congratulate Team TNT for their performance in this Special Olympics right now. I see many distinguished people here this evening, every one of you. So I acknowledge everyone, all protocols observed to save us time. But I want to hail out, Tunapuna, are you in the house? La Hocata Talparo, are you in the house? And San Fernando West, making sure you know they're in the house. And from everywhere you have come, welcome, welcome, as we are back in Tunapuna tonight. You know, on Saturday, as Chairman Peter Kanhai told you, we opened our first East-West Corridor People Center. And I just want to thank the persons who made that possible. The team led by Peter Kanhai and others. Can we thank them very much? It is their hard work. Chairman of the Tunapuna constituency and the executive Hamlin Jalal and that team, and of course former MP for Tunapuna, the one and only Mervyn Assam. So our plan is for the center, the People's Center in Tunapuna, to serve as a hub of community development. All UNC family members who have stepped up, who have joined to make it possible, to make it available as that People Center, to allow for you and others to access free health services there, free legal advice, free resume, CV writing, job advice, and much, much more. And so tonight I am very happy to announce our first free legal clinic at the Tunapuna UNC Center will be on Saturday, 23rd March. So our lawyers will be there. You don't have to pay them. If you need free legal advice, from 11 a.m. Saturday, 23rd March, all are invited. Now, the best part of this is that Tunapuna Center is just the first of many others that will open along this corridor as we work on the East-West Corridor movement. The next center will be open in the constituency of St. Joseph in Aranguez, and we will welcome you there as we offer free services. You know, our great party has always put people in front, put people at the center. Of course, we put God in front, we walk behind, but we are people-centered. We put people at the center of our plans and our policies. We listen, and then we lead. So I'm calling upon everyone, Now is not the time to stand down. Now is not the time to play the wilting violet and to stay in the background. Now is the time to step up, stand up, claim your space. And let us work together. Let us get TNT working again. Let us get Tunapuna working again. And let us get all of TNT working again. I know you like stories. So tonight I want to spend a little time to tell you a tale of two parties. One that is people-centered, that is your great party, the UNC. And the other party, which is self-centered, the PNM. You know, they tried to claim that the UNC and the partnership neglected the corridor. That's another of their lies, as they try to deceive the population. You know, many know we worked along the corridor as we worked all across Trinidad and Tobago to deliver to all of the people of our land. Let me remind you, they have spent the same or more money in 3 years than we spent, but they cannot show you one project. I remember the late deceased Mr. Manning standing in the parliament asking about then housing minister Keith Rowley, and he said, where the money gone? You remember that? Today I want to ask the Keith Rowley government, where the money gone? You cannot show us a project. You cannot show us any delivery because you are self-centered, and I'll demonstrate that tonight. I want to tell you a story of a company, and the name of that company is Zaman Enterprises. I'll come back to that. So let me remind you and others of some work that we did along the corridor as we did elsewhere. I have over 100 projects here, but there are more, so I'll go very fast. So as I call them, you talk with me and speak back to me. The Coastat campus in Grandy, done by the partnership. The new Arima Hospital, still under construction. We completed the Churchill Roosevelt Highway extension. The new Arima Police Station, the Arima ECCE, Jacob Hill ECCE, Aruka Pine Haven ECCE. You want to hear more? Valencia Bypass Road, new walkover Oropoon, new walkover Maloney, St. Barbara's Spiritual Shelter Baptist Primary School, the first ever Baptist school in Trinidad and Tobago. The El Dorado Nursing Academy, very close here, to train our young people to take up the jobs at the Children's Hospital. That hospital would have created over 2,000 new jobs. We were training the young people to take up those jobs. The Tunapuna Promenade, the upgraded Tunapuna Market, the National Tennis Complex done by your partnership government. But you know, the PNM tries to change names, but they cannot hide their DNA. The National Tennis Complex we built, they are now calling it the National Racket Center. That's their name. The Churchill Roosevelt Uriah Butler Highway interchange, Grand Bazaar. Completion of the Arangwes overpass. The National Oncology Center. You will not believe how many people in our country suffer from cancer. And the great job of the PNM was to stop the work on that National Oncology Center. I promise you, when you put us back into office, we will complete the National Oncology Center. On number 19 of 100, so I may stop along the way, the Mangaros Homework Center, upgrade of the police station at Blanchishes, the Dago Martin Highway Extension, the Dago Martin Technology Center, the Dago Martin Health Facility, the Chaguaras Boardwalk Recreation Facility, new Dabadi Bridge, new bridge B114 on the Churchill Roosevelt Highway, creation of 3 lanes out of Port of Spain, building a 3rd lane at the bridge at Sealots, construction of the roundabout at the Lockjack School of Business. I can go on. The St. Joseph River Bridge, Valencia Stretch, upgrades to the Hollis Main for better water supplies, water projects to expand the delivery of water to all. And we go on. I will stop there for tonight because I want to share. These are just some of the projects. Over 100 schools, police stations, yes, health centers, health facilities, in the education sector, in the health sector, in infrastructure development. None, but no government can surpass what we did in the government I led 2010 to 2015. Don't forget the Freeman Road Community Center rebuilt, the Tunapuna Community Center rebuilt, the Tunapuna Government School rebuilt. These are just but some of the projects. So do not let them push that divisive talk, division talk. The time for division is done. Now today, to take our country forward, now is the time for unity. We must unite together to take us forward. And so, into their 4 years in office, they have nothing to show. So they try to paint us in a bad light. But we will not be deterred. Mr. Ayers, we will not give up. We shall remain focused and people-centered. We have always been engaged in people-centered development. We have worked to build communities across Trinidad and Tobago. And in our next term in office, this I promise you, this Kamala promises you, this the UNC promises you, we will continue the benefits we started for all the people of Trinidad and Tobago. You know, I said the tale of 2 parties. That was our party, caring and delivery oriented. Performance beats the old talk every time and any time. But you know, tonight I'm vexed, I'm angry, and I'm upset. The truth is I am angry because whilst people in our country are suffering, we heard Lendor tell us earlier of the loss of jobs. We heard Ian Ford telling us about the crime situation linked to any time the PNM is in office. People don't have food. They've lost their jobs. They can't pay bills. Crime across the land. I know the commissioner is doing the best he can, but listen, without resources, you can't do it, you know. I'm told they don't even have food to feed the dogs who work with the police service. So yes, Commissioner Gary Griffith, great job. He worked with us. I know he's a great man and can do well, but he must have the resources and the government must have the will. You cannot put all the burden on Commissioner of Police. So listen, all of this is happening. And those in the government are doing all they can to fleece the taxpayers of our country before they are voted out of office because they know the writing is on the wall. They will be voted out of office. They are desperate to grab all they can before they are booted out of office. And I'll show you how. You know, they talk about corruption. UNC and partnership corrupt and thief. Well, you will never find a bigger set of thief and more corruption than you find when the PNM is in office. Tonight I want to share with you what is taking place in the highest offices of our country. They're supposed to act in your interest, in the interest of the people. Instead, they are seeking their own self-interest. Last week, in piloting the company's amendment bill in the parliament, AG Faris Al-Rawi said, and I'm quoting him, "I love companies. I love company law. Quite frankly," he said, "I enjoy corporate law." I will tell you tonight why the AG loves company law so much. This is the same man who was telling the country that it is companies that are used by people to hide their wealth and to hide their wrongdoings. Let me show you this tonight. I have in my possession a bundle of documents. A very big bundle, by the way, and I think Dr. Rowley needs to plug the leak in his cabinet, because there are those in his own cabinet who are sharing with us cabinet documents of the wrongdoing that is taking place. I have a whole, this looks like a court brief, by the way, because I have all the supporting documents in evidence. I don't speak without evidence. I do not speak lightly. And so tonight I will share with you what is taking place. There is a company registered in the company's registry, and I have all the documents here, and the name of it is Zaman Enterprises Limited. This company only has 2 shareholders, and each shareholder has 1 share, and the share is valued at $1. So a $2 company in shares. The entire share capital is $2. Let me tell you something now. Do you know who are the owners, the shareholders? You will find out tonight. In 2006, this company bought a property known as number 3 Alexander Street, Sinclair. I have the deed in my bundle of documents. I have the deed for the property in 2006 when they bought it. The price the company paid for that property at number 3 Alexander Street was $2.5 million. I have a document, another one, which is captioned Cabinet Minute number 290 of 2019, this year. Any Minister of Cabinet is free to come forward and challenge the veracity, truth of what I'm saying to do. Come and tell us this Cabinet note I'm holding, 290 of 2019, is not true, is not real. I challenge any one of them. And I also challenge the Prime Minister to find out where the leak is coming from. This cabinet have so many leaks now. And why would they do this? Because they too are fed up. Some of them are fed up and very disturbed at what is taking place. You remember to say there's something is rotten in the state of Denmark, and this is coming from the highest level. So here we are, 290, 2019 cabinet minute. Minute means a confirmed document. I want to thank the public-spirited citizen who realized the extent of the crookedness that was going on and decided to send this document to our offices because they could no longer stomach the stench coming from the corridors of power. Thank you very much for giving us this information. According to the documents I'm holding, the cabinet led by the Prime Minister, they agreed to rent, to lease this property, number 3 Alexander Street, Sinclair, for the price of $644,000 per month. That is $575,000 plus VAT, which takes it to $644,000 in 1 month. More than $500 million in 1 month to pay rent. And you want to know where the money gone? Here's where it's going. Here's where part of it is going. This property I told you, with the deed that I have here from the lands registry, the company bought it for $2.5 million in 2006. Now in 2019, 2.5 million, understand? They are going to be getting, for the lease, which is 3 years, for 3 years, they're going to be collecting $23,184,000. You want to know where the corruption is? Keep listening, stay tuned. Do you want to know who these people are? Do you want to know who they are? I have in my possession the last annual return of the company Zaman Enterprises Limited. You know who are the two shareholders? I can't believe it. I hope people come and tell me it's not true. But from the company documents in the company's registry, the two shareholders are Faris Alwari and his wife Mona Nahus. Right here. Have it here. And that return was filed on 27th April 2018, showing the two shareholders, man and wife. And do you know who are the directors? The directors are the man, his wife, and his son, Abraham Alwari. This is a family enterprise. Directors and the two shareholders. I don't like to speak of people's children, you know. But then, remember, this man disowned his own children. So I don't know Abraham Alwari, who is listed in these company documents, if he will disown him as his son. We shall wait and see. So the Attorney General, his wife, with their two ordinary shares worth $2, will, by this transaction, they will go laughing all the way to the bank. $23 million taxpayers' dollars. And you see why the AG says he loves companies? You see why? This is the same Faris Alwari who last week in the parliament was telling the country that it is private companies that are used to hide wealth. And he's making this change in the law so we must know who are the beneficial owners of these companies. He loves to tell us, as he did in the parliament last sitting, he loves to tell us about Al Capone, but he doesn't want to tell us about Alwari. So let me tell you how this transaction took place. How this story, how it unfolds. According to the documents again, the cabinet note was taken to cabinet for lease of this property. That was dated 12th February 2019. So that's how the cabinet operates. You take a note for cabinet to consider a matter and to make a decision to rent this property. 12th February 2019. When the country was busy gearing up for carnival, they were having their own carnival in the cabinet. That note was considered and agreed to the cabinet, by the cabinet, on the 14th February 2019. 2 days later. You talk about done deal? That was a done deal. When the note was taken to cabinet, only the first page of the annual return was annexed to the note. So the cabinet saw who were the directors. And at that time, the directors, because Faris had removed himself, was the son and the wife. But they did not put the other piece of the annual return, which shows the shareholders. Look, I caused a search to be done in the company's registry up to today, and there is no change of ownership of the share held by Faris. So what does it mean? Mona Nahus, Abraham Alwari, wife and son of the AG, are the directors at the time this decision was taken. But the shareholders on record were then, when the cabinet was being asked to rent this property, AG and wife, one share each, 50%, 50%. The cabinet was never shown from the documents I have who were the owners, the shareholders. So the AG now has some questions to answer again. He must tell the country why was the cabinet who was making decision to rent this property for $23 million over 3 years, why were they not told that the building belonged to him and his wife? Why were they not told? You know, this is a man, as I say, preaching transparency and accountability in Parliament last week. And you know, before this matter came to the cabinet, research shows, even before he changed himself as a director 18th November, yes, before the decision, even before this matter was being considered by the Ministry of Public Administration, August last year. At that time, according to records, he was still a director, he was still a shareholder. So whilst he was director, shareholder, along with his wife and son, negotiations are going on with the government. By letter dated 15th October 2018, the father-in-law gets into the fray. A fellow named Nazim Nahus, father-in-law of the AG. And he was writing the Permanent Secretary of Public Admin Ministry. Let me just read what he said. This is Faris's father-in-law telling the ministry, I quote, "We are pleased to accept the state's offer to lease the captioned A-class commercial building at the rate of $600,000 per month." Please. So the state was offering the lease property owned by AG and his wife, and the father-in-law is writing to tell the government he was pleased. Listen, fellas, he has a right to be pleased. Any one of us here will be very pleased. This is over $500,000 for 1 month. We will never see that in a lifetime. The majority of people in this country can't even collect a salary when the month comes, the amount of job losses there have been. So this man is so pleased. Well, good luck to him. At this time, who is the legal advisor to the government? Who is the legal advisor to the cabinet and to the government? Is the same man who is the joint owner of this property. You think things could get any better than that for some people? You see why he loves company law and corporate law? You just shift a name here and shift a name there. I call on the AG to tell me who is the beneficial owner of this property at 3 Alexandra Street, St. Clair. All the records are pointing to him and to the wife. So, all this time, this man, legal advisor to the government, director and shareholder of a company, it gets better for them, you know, in the negotiations. While negotiations are going on, before the cabinet takes the decision, he goes and removes himself as a director, as I told you, and he leaves the wife and the son. You see why he loves companies? You see why he loves them? You just shift a name. Who is the beneficial owner? I ask that again. And so, I want him to tell this country why he removed himself as a director of the company 8th November 2018. Yes? Now, before November, remember I told you they were in negotiations. Why was this done days before his father-in-law accepted a state offer to rent the property for millions of dollars? Was the AG involved or aware of these discussions that the company he and his wife owned was having a negotiation with the government, of which he's AG and he's the absolute chief legal advisor? Did he advise and participate? All the documents do not show at any point in time that when the cabinet considered this matter, that the AG recused himself from the discussions. No record whatsoever. And so we asked, what does he have to hide? Why was the cabinet not told he was a shareholder of the company that was going to benefit from this $23 million contract lease? And this is not a 1% or 5%, you know. That's not what he owns, you know. According to the online search conducted today, as I told you, he is a 50% owner of this company. So that $23 million, 50% is for him, and 50% is for the wife. Boy, I wish I had a contract like that, you know. I'm sure you all wish you had it too, so your entire family would benefit. Mother, father, and son, and the father-in-law somewhere in the background. What was the role of the office of the AG in providing advice to the ministry in this transaction? Did he make full and frank disclosure of the totality of his interest to the cabinet? Let me make it very clear, I really would not want this to be true. I told you I damn vex. Because this is at the highest levels, something that is really eating away at the heart of the ordinary man and woman in this country. I do not want to believe this level of misconduct lies at the hands and feet of the AG of this country. I do not want to believe that the AG is capable of such duplicity and deception. But you know what? I am reminded of Faris Gate. Do you remember the bacchanal with children with high-powered guns? Do you remember the report which was done and then proven to be a lie and a cover-up, a failed cover-up, with respect to the complicity of a senior government minister? So you know what, like you, I don't trust this government. I don't trust this government. And above all, I do not trust Faris Al-Rawi. I ask him to come clean. I want to remind the AG and you here and the government of Section 29 of the Integrity in Public Life Act. And I quote, for the purpose of this act, a conflict of interest is deemed to arise if a person in public life or any person exercising a public function were to make or participate in the making of a decision in the execution of his office, and at the same time knows or ought reasonably to have known that in making of the decision there is an opportunity either directly or indirectly to further his private interests or that of a member of his family or any other person. I remind him, and where there is a possible conflict of interest, the Act says that person shall disclose his interest in accordance with prescribed procedures and disqualify himself from any decision-making process. So, not only is the AG heavily conflicted, but I believe that the entire cabinet which approved this transaction would be guilty if they knew and they chose to facilitate this decision. Tonight I call on all cabinet ministers present at those meetings in the cabinet when this matter was discussed to state whether they were aware of this potential conflict of interest when they approved the transaction. I want to ask them, are you innocent or are you guilty? And I want to ask you, did Faris disqualify himself at all points in the decision-making process, and did he so inform and advise you as members of the cabinet? Further, I call upon the Commissioner of Police to launch an immediate investigation into this matter. For breaches of the Prevention of Corruption Act and misbehavior in public office. And of course, our lawyers shall also bring this matter to the attention of the Integrity Commission. I don't, people told me call on the Prime Minister to fire Faris. Well, you know that, and on God's face, you're not going to see. So I'm not going to call on the Prime Minister because Prime Minister knew or ought to have known of this matter, and if he did not, he should call in Faris and find out the truth of the matter and apprise himself of the situation. So they covered up Faris and the Faris Gate and the children and so on. I'm going to send this to the Commissioner of Police, and our lawyers will send it to the Integrity Commission for investigation. Now, there are a lot more things to speak about. I want to talk about the Paria fuel scandal. This government operates by VAPs. So Espinay say they're going to sell Paria and sell the Petrotrin, whatever it's now called, they're going to sell it. And today I see a fellow named Frankie smiling all over the place, puts out a press release. He said, no, we're not going to sell it. So one day they sell it in the left hand, doesn't know what the right hand is doing. They have now retracted. They put big advertisements, And now Mr. Frankie is saying, no, it's not going to be sold. But you know what? We knew this is a ploy and a plot and a conspiracy to sell what belongs to the people of Trinidad and Tobago. Government by VAPs. And therefore tonight I call on this wicked, incompetent, useless government. And to tell them this, I call on the Prime Minister to halt any sale of the refinery and Paria fuel trading until after the general election is held. Do not give away our nation's patrimony. Do not sell at basement bargain prices in a fire sale. Let the people, all the people decide, and let us make that an election item for the 2020 elections. Let the people decide. I promise you that my government, should you put us back in office, we will not sell the assets of the people of Trinidad and Tobago. We will not. So you decide. Espinay cannot decide for us. Espinay should not decide for us. And it is clear that I had to rein him back because he went out there advertising. And whom when I read the ad, who is it? Scotia Bank now giving the job to sell this thing? How did they recruit Scotia Bank? The only connection I know with Scotia Bank is some people call it young and young and young. You understand? You understand what's going on? You understand what is happening in this country? So I say stop any sale of that refinery and let the people decide in respect to the next election. So finally, I had some really nice plans to share with you, but I did want to bring you up to speed with what was happening with Zamen, with the highest officers, with the AG and so on. So let me just share, finally, a few plans. We shared some with you already. What are plans, more plans to get TNT working again with respect to jobs? It is very clear that this government has not created a single new job. It is very clear, the Prime Minister admitted himself that they had lost 20,000 jobs, which we had created and more. It is very clear it is more than 20,000 jobs that have been lost. I say it's closer to about 50,000 jobs lost them. And as you know, we created over 55,000 jobs. And you see, we have the plans. We can do that and better. And for you here tonight, especially along the corridor, especially in Tunapuna, let me share with you some more of our plans for the economic transformation of our country and to create jobs, sustainable jobs. You see, we believe the time has come to end the boom and bust cycles which have taken us over decades of failed P&M policies. They put all the eggs in the one basket of the energy sector. When the price goes up, great. When the price drops, we are like boom and bust, boom and bust. We have to stop that vicious cycle. We have to change the way we approach economic growth and national development. We don't believe in the old P&M ideas of turnaround. And so, to maximize the full potential of our people and nation, we have to embrace the economic challenges of the 21st century. We believe what we need is not turnaround. We need economic transformation so we can prepare the jobs for the people of our land. And this I tell you, when you put us back in government, we will immediately implement our national economic transformation plan. Diversification is the heart of this plan. We will encourage strategic investments in niche non-energy sectors where we have strong competitive advantage, market opportunity, and growth potential. And so we have developed 12 key strategic prosperity engines spread across both TNT, Trinidad and Tobago. These prosperity engines will mobilize and engage private sector locally and internationally. They will have large positive multiplier effects in kickstarting economic recovery, fostering growth, and supporting diversification. These prosperity engines will spur a dynamic, sustainable, technological, resourceful economy, which will allow you, the people of our land, to prosper and fulfill their potential. We consider the East-West Corridor to be instrumental in being the conduit for economic transformation. 3 of these prosperity engines, I've told you, we have developed 12 thus far. Time will allow me on another night, stay tuned, to tell you about the others. But tonight, I'll deal with 3 which are based along the East-West Corridor. 1, the Tamana Solar Tech Renewable Energy Park. 2, the East-West Biotechnology Manufacturing Corridor. I spoke about that before. And 3, the Piarco Aircraft Maintenance, Repair and Operations Hub. These 3 prosperity drivers will create the thousands of jobs together with other projects that we need. So let's talk about the Tamana Solar Tech Renewable Resource. Basically, you know what we are talking about? The sun. Talk about solar, renewable energy, the sun. You know, our great party, our symbol is the rising sun. And indeed, all energy and all source of life comes from the sun. We don't use it. We have free sunlight almost every day of the year, and even when there are clouds and it's raining, that sunlight can still help us to create energy. Solar power has surged to become the cheapest and fastest growing source of energy, electricity on the planet. And with this, we'll invite investors to establish a solar tech park within the Tamana Intech Park. This will develop energy efficient modular solutions which can be retrofitted to existing buildings or integrated into new construction projects and used in several other areas, marine, communications, and transport. Tamana Solar Tech will access and supply solar technologies through licensing and supply agreements and customize the product to provide specialist and turnkey energy solutions to communities here, but also within the entire Caribbean region. So if oil done and gas done, the sunlight is not going to be done anywhere in the near future and in the lifetimes of many of us. And investors will be invited, but they will fully finance their own solar projects at the Tamana Park. That's how business should be. Government shouldn't be trying to do everything. Imagine government tries to run a seafood development board. The government tries to run everything, and then what do? Run it to the ground. So what we will do is that the investors will finance the project, but what the government will do is to provide all the necessary support to fast-track implementation of these plans, as well as tax incentives. You see that man, Mervyn Hassan? In the last administration, he was responsible for getting done for us so many trading agreements across the world. He understands trade and investment very well. He will help us in that. Unlike the present Minister of Trade, her biggest project is a bubblegum factory. Come to tell the Parliament, a bubblegum factory. I am talking to you about renewable energy, using the sun to harness power, energy, electricity, to power Trinidad and Tobago and the rest of the Caribbean and elsewhere, because that blessed sun shines on us every day. The second project I mentioned is the East-West Biotechnology Manufacturing Corridor. Again, we invite investors, local, international, to set up a biotechnology manufacturing zone along the corridor. This manufacturing corridor will attract entrepreneurs and firms, local and international, and what they will be required to do is to create a cluster of industrial applications in agro, in health, in wellness, and industrial and environmental biotechnology. I heard our chairman of the constituency, Hamlin, speaking about agriculture and the lack of vision on the part of the present government. But this is a way we will go along the corridor, a biotechnology manufacturing zone, again creating jobs, sustainable jobs. Such areas in the cluster of industrial applications will include therapeutic and nutraceutical plants, exotic livestock development, integrated aquaculture systems, biopesticides, crop genetic improvement, Asian medicine, remember the economy, the silver economy, Asian medicine, generics, biosimilars, bioinformatics, and environmental conservation. If you don't understand all those words, talk to your children. Let them find the laptops that we gave them and let them Google all these words. These are the buzzwords of this digital age, and this is where we must go to position Trinidad and Tobago at the forefront and to train our children, our young ones, not so young ones, to be able to work in the digital age. Again, investors will fully finance, because you'll ask me, the PNM has drained the treasury. By the time we get back into office, it will be empty. Where will the money come from? Investors will fully finance. The role of government will be to act as facilitator to implement these projects. And finally, when I say finally, I mean for tonight, we have a lot more plans to share with you. The Aircraft Maintenance, Repair and Operations Hub at Piarco, MRO. Maintenance, Repair and Operations. Again, we invite investors to build and manage an aircraft maintenance, repair and operations hub in the Aeropark at Piarco International Airport. One of the major challenges faced by air transport in TNT and the Caribbean is the lack of major aircraft maintenance facility, so airlines have to conduct their repairs and maintenance overseas. TNT could serve as an aviation center for the wider Caribbean with significant experience in airport administration, air traffic management, aircraft inspection, and air navigation services. We will leverage these strengths to build a comprehensive aircraft MRO facility to provide heavy maintenance, line maintenance, and aircraft painting and repairs and so on. Again, invite investors, they will have to finance their project, and government will provide the necessary support to fast track. So these projects are not about Sandals, you know. With Sandals, we were giving them the land. With Sandals, they were going to build the facility, and all Sandals was coming to do was put the name Sandals on the face of it, but all the taxpayers' dollars would have been spent, yes, on the land, on the actual buildings and so on, and infrastructure. No, investors will finance, and government once again will provide necessary support to facilitate. How are we sounding? Good? Great, great, great. And so, I've shared with you some other fiscal measures in terms of how we can make these things happen. Tonight I will not repeat those, all I have them here. But I will tell you something. We will open the airport at Camden when we get back into office. We will open it. So Trinidad and Tobago will not have one airport, will not have two airports, we'll have 3 airports. We can use that there to help with the domestic internal flights, Trinidad to Tobago. Everybody don't have to drive to Piarco. It will help to ease the traffic congestion. So you could go down to Camden Airstrip where it's already there, and we will make a pathway for students and graduates of the aviation training programs to be apprentices and to gain the skills to work at that Piarco MRO hub that I spoke about. Fazal, thank you, from cotton cane to flying plane. I close tonight, the way forward, in Tunapuna. In every constituency, we need to take back our country, we need to take back our communities. We have a plan to transform TNT, but we need all hands on deck. Tonight I call on everyone, let us unite, let us work together to get TNT working again. Your support on the ground in our party groups at the planning table is what will make the UNC an unstoppable force in the upcoming elections. Deputy Leader Jillian John shared with you, as she told you, let the black woman deal with the black man. You all happy with that? But I want to tell Deputy Leader Jillian John, she could deal with any man, any woman, and any child. We thank her. As our sister, we thank her for her strength. She has done a tremendous job up in La Joqueta, Talparo, bringing everyone home. And that is why I've asked Jillian John to head our team for the East-West Corridor movement, to spearhead the East-West Corridor movement. Tonight, the UNC is a party for all of TNT. The principles guiding us, safety and security of our families, opportunities for all, empowerment through education and skills development, integrity and good governance. These are the principles that inspire us to work together to help build a better future for our country. We may have made some mistakes along the way. I have apologized, I will continue to apologize for those, but I'll tell you this, I have learned a lot. I have learned a lot. We all have learned a lot. And you know, they say those who don't learn from the mistakes of the past, you are doomed to repeat them. And one thing I have learned very clearly, is that we cannot build our country unless we marry the young people with their innovation and their brightness and sprightliness and strength with the experience of the not so young ones. And so I'm opening all doorways into the UNC. I've said there will be no coalition. We are UNC and we are proud. And therefore the way forward is to step up, stand up, join the UNC, let us work together. We cannot have 10 and 15 different little parties and everyone feel he's the leader or she's the leader. There is one party, there is one leader, and there will be one government, the government of the UNC. And I tell you, all who vex, lost. All who vex, lost. You're going to be, raise your hand, raise your hand, raise your hand, raise your hand. With this hand and with this finger, you have the power to put a government in office, but you also have the power to move a government out of office. You have the power. And as Archbishop Barbara Burke always tells us, my mother, Archbishop, bring down the power. Now is the time. Bring down the power of the UNC and let's get TNT working again. God bless you. God bless you, and I thank you very much. Thank you.
I just can't live without you. No, no way. Now many men will try to tell you bad things about me. Oh baby, let them try. I know one day they'll lust you die, and there will be no cause or reason for you to doubt me, cause what I feel is real. The love that I have in you signed and sealed. Now I'm building my whole wide world around you, but baby, here's my request from you. Baby, don't take